Hi y'all! Your favorite nerdy girl is back, Nerdygirlreviews, and yes, if you can tell by my top hats, in homage to Lady Danbury, we are reviewing Bridgerton on Netflix. Um, I will be back with my review. Also, if you want to catch my videos, I am on sofritoforyoursoul.com. I am their TV and movie commentator. All right, stay tuned. Ooh, some nice bubbly. I feel very, I feel like I'm at a ball. I'm truly at a ball. Yes, let's get into this review. What can I say? Yes, this series came out on Christmas Day, and when I saw that trailer and I saw Lady Danbury, I was just in love. I mean, just from her demeanor to her facial expressions to her costumes. Oh, she was, and the accent was just the cherry on top. I loved her. But I want to say that this show really took a lot of people by surprise. Just for the simple fact that yes, it takes place in the Regency era, uh, but we weren't expecting that it was going to be such a multi-ethnic cast, and how the story and ethnicities are interwoven into the story. So kudos to Shonda Rhimes. I mean, come on, Grey's Anatomy. She is just like everything she touches turns into gold. ABC should have thought of that because now Netflix is living large. Look up, the money that she's made with this show, and I'm hearing that they've already greenlit for a second season, which I believe they'll be shooting soon, and possibly it's going to go into 8 seasons. So here's wishful thinking for more characters. But I gotta say, it's fresh and it's innovative, but we have to also thank those who kind of set the precedence for them to be able to, so we can see imagery like this. If we didn't have a Cinderella with Brandy, remember that film? We wouldn't see this. If we wouldn't have had, Beyonce with all of her creative videos as well, her dressed as the queen that she is, again, we wouldn't be like seeing these images. So I feel like other artists have pushed for fair representation to see people of color in these positions, and then now we're finally reaping those rewards. And yes, even down to Hamilton, flipping the script. But I will say that even though a lot of this series is based in fantasy, it also has grains of truth. So even down to our Queen Charlotte, based on, I believe, some research I looked up before my review, the showrunners and people who wanted to take on because it was originally there were novels, kind of like the Sookie Stackhouse, books for True Blood. They this was a story. There were several novels, and then they took it on as a film adaptation or TV series adaptation. And so they did their research, and at that time there was an actual Queen Charlotte who had African American, well, had African descent. I almost said American. Had African descent in her ancestry. So there is the possibility, like that in itself lends itself to so many possibilities of who was to say that that didn't exist. That because of that union, that it didn't lend itself for the possibility of having a Duke Hastings like we see in our male lead, played by Ray Gay, I believe his name is. Oh, he's beautiful. Like, let's just get that out of the way. He's a beautiful man. And I mean, again, we need to see more visuals like that. We honestly do. I think the audience is, especially people of color, are hungry to see more of a leading male be of color. And I'm excited. I'm honestly excited to see where the story goes. So we basically are introduced to well-to-do families. You know, these are and again, it's totally believable that, you know, if you were young, that was like, and especially if you were female at that particular era, your only motive was to be married. That was it. Be married and live well. If you were already of wealth, you wanted to find someone, a suitor that was of wealth as well. And so that was honestly kind of like their only purpose at that time. So there's the debutante ball, and you know they dress their girls to find their suitors in their best gala, and also to impress the queen. But I want to say what's interesting about this particular series. Also, we have, you know, reminiscence of maybe Gossip Girl. You know, when it comes down, they even have a gossip writer, goes by Lady Whistledown, I believe. And so she's the one that has all the tea. She obviously is within their inner circle without really knowing who she is. She's kept her anonymity, but she knows all the dirt that goes on. And if you make her paper, it can honestly make or break you. So basically, the page six of its time. You know, if you're a New Yorker, you know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, it gave you that, and then we hear her inner monologue, which also makes it onto the paper, and I believe the the voice that they get to play Lady Whistledown is Julie Andrews, and she has such a distinctive voice. Come on, like all of her classics, and so and now it's, you know, in that mature tone, but nonetheless, like still very like rich in just like the certain sentences and enunciations. Which again, I also want to make a point, which I love that it takes place in the UK, and they all have this accent, even down pronouncing to our main character's brother's name. So our main character is Daphne. She is the one that falls in love with the Duke, Simon Bissett. And so her brother, which is a very lovely, good-looking man, his character's name is Anthony. They can't even call him Anthony. It's like Anthony. So you see what I'm saying? Like even down to the accent, it was just refreshing. I loved it. Which I also want to make a point too that Anthony is played by Jonathan Bailey. Anthony Bridgeton, right? So he's Daphne Bridgerton's brother, and he's the cad of the season. But yet he still has to play, you know, a big role in his sister's life because his after his father's passing, he is the man of the house. He's the Lord Bridgerton, and he has to make sure that his sister is married well. But I want to make a point that I believe that we're in for a treat, especially since if they're going according to the novel, I believe the second novel in this series, they're going to focus more on his character. Jonathan, I don't know, a lot of people know that yes, Jonathan has an extensive, I believe, resume, but he also worked with Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Yes, the famous Fleabag creator, actress. I mean, the woman is another one. She's just was a star in the making. So she also had her other show called Crashing before Fleabag took off. And Crashing was, I would love to see another season. I believe they only did two, and it's on Netflix too. Jonathan has some comedy chops. Like, I mean, I think we're all in for a treat if they kind of like maybe, but I feel like he's playing more of a dramatic role for this series, but he has some like really good comedic timing. So look out for him and his character next season. Yeah, so his character, you know, although very noble and making sure his sister is married well, but he is such a cad, such a picaflor. You know, we as Latins, we know what that means. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to curse in English, but we all know what kind of boy he is. And although he seems like he's extremely involved and loves his songstress. I believe her character's name is Sienna Russo. Um, and though she is a woman in the entertainment business, she's not then considered a lady. And so he can't marry her. But yet he doesn't mind indulging himself, to make himself feel better. And though I believe he does try, they're empty promises, like every what kind of boy. So it's sad, but it's interesting how maybe it'll go into the second season if he'll really settle down. We'll see. Daphne being young and naive, still trying to find a suitor, finds herself in these galas, and some do come, but again, her brother unfortunately is always there to sabotage her. He's not good enough. He's not good enough. You should marry. And then the one that he settles on is somebody that she's not even interested in, is like 20 years her senior. So no, if not more. And so somehow she manages to bump into his best friend, one of his best friends, the Duke of Hastings. And somehow they kind of work in each other's favors, in the sense that he doesn't want to be bombarded by a number of, moms that want to marry their children off to, especially to the royalty. So they kind of work something out, and in doing that, they end up falling for each other. So it has a little bit of instincts of like cruel intentions in a way, right? Something kind of works out for their favor, but then they end up falling for each other accidentally. And then they fall for each other madly, but he insists on not marrying her because he does not. First he claims that he can't have children, but she still ends up doing it because she would prefer that than a life long with a much older man that she knew was not going to treat her right and possibly would have tortured her. So she took her chances with him. They loved each other passionately for a number of episodes. When I believe because she was young, she didn't even know about how sex works. And so once she finally figures out that, yeah, he can have children, he just refuses to have children, in the sense that he had a speech impediment when he was younger. He felt that that might actually be passed down to an heir. And he also hated his father deeply, in the sense that because his father tortured and bullied him based on that speech impediment, made him feel really low. That's why Lady Danbury is such a key role here, because she helped raise him. After his mother died after childbirth, the child was basically left on its own, and she was like, no, I'm not going to have that. So she stepped in as a pseudo mom. So, it gets a little prickly, that relationship, because she wants children and she thought that he couldn't have, but they could have. And they settle into married life. And at first she, I think, maybe believes that she could accept it, but she's like, no, and I think also because he hated his father so much that he told his father on his deathbed, spoiler alert, the whole video is a spoiler, but he said that the Hastings name would die with him. So it was something he vowed out of rage and anger. Moving forward also, there's a lot of characters and twists and turns. I'm not going to get into all of it because it was just too much. It's an 8-part episode series for now, for season 1. And you can watch those, but I do recommend it. Lastly, the identity of Lady Whistledown is also a big scandal, and it gets into almost like the Nancy Drew kind of like, I'm gonna see who it is, with her sister, Daphne's sister, Eloise, played by Claudia Jessie. Okay, like, she's so not very much involved in this world. She does not care to be married, and in fact she wants to do her own thing, very reminiscent of Little Women. And so she does everything almost to find out who it is, but also to protect the person who writes it. And though towards the end she gets near close, I mean, the girl's bright, but she just totally misses the mark. And then At the very end, again, if you don't want to know, but at the very end is that we discover that it was her best friend this entire time, Penelope, from the Featherton family, I believe. So again, it goes through twists and turns. I enjoyed it. I really did. I think it's a really fun show, playing in fantasy, giving us representation. Um, there are a few reviewers that I've seen online that have found it a little problematic, just in the sense that they believe colorism could have also played into the casting. So I believe people did make it mention, not because they were hating on the show, but because they were concerned in moving forward. And in a way, I kind of do see it, you know. Um, for instance, like the higher positions in terms of the characters, like the Duke and the Queen. Yes, there were lighter skin tone, uh, um, you know, actors with very European-esque, although they were or are of African descent, still very much European and feeds into a Western sense of beauty. And yeah, the more villainous people were on the darker side. So there was an issue with that. Now, I don't know if that necessarily was because of the casting directors. I don't believe that Shonda is responsible of that. I believe that she's even executive producer, so she leaves that in hands of other people, so she can't be blamed for this. But, you know, again, there's nothing wrong with suggestions moving forward in the sense of, like, you know, let's move more into a positive light, not always make people who are dark villainous, or fall into tropes, you know, you know, fetishizing also of races or of different ethnicities too. Even the Asian characters fell into that fetishism. You know what I mean? So you have to be kind of, you know, conscious of that. But aside from that, I loved it. I thought it was great. I think all these modern touches too helps bridge, pun intended, new generations to enjoy the series as well. So I loved it. I give it, you know, a number of nerdy glasses and a cheers to celebrating more people of color representation on screen. We need more people on screen. We need more people of color also making the decisions in the casting uh, spectrum as well. So again, I shall be back with another review. I believe there's a couple of series on Disney Plus that I might look into. I believe it's called WandaVision that I might check out soon. So make sure you come back, you hear, and go watch that show and enjoy it. All right, guys. Till then, XOXO Nerdy Girl Reviews. Besitos.